Where did Skip go? Hey everybody, I'm Skip Alzheimer. Welcome to the avgeeks lunchtime streaming show. I apologize for accidentally restarting that film. It's an awesome film though. I really dig it. It's one of the films that I scanned from the Orgone archive, which ultimately came from what's called Mogul Brothers Collection, which was a camera store in New York City, which rented out films. And these films were often reduced from 35 millimeter. And there was a pretty vibrant educational film market in the late 20s, early 30s. And so pretty great stuff. It's all dramatized, but, you get a sense of what class was like, school was like. So we are on the verge of some bad weather, although not as bad as it was originally predicted to be. What's funny is that you've seen me sometimes wear the orange shirt that has an image of a guy that some people thought was Ted Bundy, but is actually our beloved weatherman who retired or was forced into retirement from our local TV station. And he's in Florida now working for some other company, not doing weather stuff. But he was posting on Facebook about how he was looking at the data and he just didn't think it was going to be as severe as everybody was saying, the National Weather Service and all that. But he said, I just don't see it. I'm not seeing what's happening. And he says this is not like the 2011 tornadoes, which I will tell you more about as we go along. But I pulled a film about tornadoes called Tornado, A Spotter's Guide, which is a film made for spotting tornadoes by NOAA. So maybe this is a way that I can invoke the idea of tornadoes so that tornadoes don't come. I don't know, it's some sort of weird 16 millimeter voodoo. So here we go, Tornado, A Spotter's Guide.
May 26, 1976. A massive storm system is moving into North Texas from the southwest. A tornado watch is issued. At 2:25 p.m., large hail is reported as the storm moves northeast towards Dallas. 3:15 p.m., tornado spotters are out in radio communication with the National Weather Service in Fort Worth. Here, reports from spotters are checked against radar reports from Stephenville. Radar is tracking the storm, shows nothing dangerous at this time. 3:30 p.m., a spotter west of Dallas reports a large wall cloud at the southwest edge of the storm. 3:41, radar shows heavy precipitation, but no sign of a tornado. 3:45, tornado sighted, moving east towards Dallas. The warning goes out. 4:25 p.m. Spotters track the tornado over North Dallas as it tears up trees, roofs, homes, and buildings. Over $1 million in destruction. Yet, because the warning went out early, only one reported injury. While radar is indispensable, it does not always indicate a tornado. Trained spotters can. Spotters tracked this tornado from start to finish, while radar never showed it. Spotters. They are the most reliable source of information we have about tornadoes.
This film is about how to identify tornadoes and how to recognize the cloud structures that produce tornadoes. Virtually all tornadoes come from thunderstorms, and thunderstorms start with cumulus clouds like these. The process is speeded up in this time-lapse film. Thunderstorms start when warm, moist air becomes buoyant and begins to rise. This air expands, cools, and condenses to form clouds. The cloud towers you see here are updrafts of rising air. You can see these updrafts grow to higher altitudes as they build in columns several miles in diameter and over 10 miles high. These towering clouds have now developed into a thunderstorm, which might bring heavy rain, hail, strong straight winds, and possibly tornadoes. Here is a representation of an entire thunderstorm to help you pick out that part of the storm that is most likely to produce a tornado. We are looking northwest. These sharply outlined and rapidly ascending towers locate the storm's most intense updrafts. The storm has reached its peak altitude and is being blown downstream into an anvil by high winds aloft. The cloud base under these towers is generally free of rain. Most of the precipitation falls out here to the north and east of the rapidly building tower. The tornado will most likely develop underneath these towers to the southwest of the main precipitation area. Large hailstones often fall immediately to the north and east of the tornado. The tornado usually comes out of a cloud formation called a wall cloud. You may see rotation in the wall cloud prior to the tornado. This thunderstorm, seen from about 30 miles away, draws air from miles around into its updraft. A tornado would come out of this part of the storm directly below the building towers. The rain and hail fall here to the northeast. Another storm, speeded up again. This one is about 10 miles away. Time lapse again. This approaching storm is even closer. Notice the absence of rain below cloud base and the updrafts above. Now we're looking under the cloud base. It's dark here because there's a 10-mile thickness of cloud above. You are looking west. Looking west again, at the right, to the north, rain. At the left, a rain-free cloud base at the southwest edge of the storm. This is the part of the storm where tornadoes are most likely to form. Most tornadoes come out of the formation you see here, the wall cloud. The wall cloud is an isolated lowering of the cloud base. It marks an area of strong updraft and should be watched carefully. It may produce a tornado. Even without a tornado, winds beneath the wall cloud may be extreme. Large hail may fall from beneath or near the wall cloud. Here, to the right of the wall cloud, is heavy rain. From a distance, you can see vertical cloud towers rising above the wall cloud. Looking west, rain to the north, rain-free base to the south, wall cloud silhouetted against the sky. Wall clouds can take on different shapes and forms. They are typically 1 to 3 miles in diameter. They're always connected to the cloud base, usually just outside the rain at the southwest edge of the storm. When you can see the wall cloud rotate, it's dangerous. As the updraft draws air into the wall cloud, the air begins to rotate. As the air approaches the center, it spins faster. The motion is like the whirlpool in a bathtub drain, upside down. Sometimes you can actually see the spiraling motion in the clouds. Here's where the tornado is forming. The tornado is a violently rotating column of air in contact with the ground. Rotation is happening on a broad scale, and the tornado is an outgrowth of the rotation. Look at the rotation in this wall cloud and in the small detached clouds below it. Most tornadoes move from the southwest at average forward speeds of 30 miles per hour. Speeds have been clocked up to 70 miles per hour. Here's Cabot, Arkansas. This unique time-lapse sequence of a storm shows all the elements that produce tornadoes. Updraft, rotation, and, below the base, a wall cloud. Out of this wall cloud forms a tornado. Sometimes you might not see the funnel at all, especially when it is nearly overhead. However, there might already be a tornado, even though the funnel is not yet visible. The cloud of whirling dust and debris might be the first sign that a tornado is forming. There's a connection between the funnel and the debris cloud on the ground, even though you can't see it. The debris cloud here is unmistakable. This tornado is an entire column of dust. Dust, however, can make spotting difficult, especially at a distance. Look close. Lindsborg, Kansas, September 1973. What you see in the distance is obscured by the hill. It looks like a cloud on the ground. It is a cloud, a wall cloud. As it approaches from the southwest, a giant tornado reveals itself. It's making a damage path half a mile wide. 30 minutes later, the same storm strikes Salina. Here, the tornado shrinks to a slender rope-like filament, yet it is still destructive. Look at the debris cloud. This monstrous tornado is half a mile wide at the ground. Imagine this tornado with trees and hills in the foreground. It might be very difficult to identify. It's difficult to spot a tornado at night. You may hear the sound of a tornado at close range. Remember, if you're in large hail, the most dangerous part of the storm is very near. Sometimes lightning can illuminate cloud features, such as this wall cloud. This tornado over Tulsa shows you a clue for night spotting. Look for flashes of light when the tornado hits electrical power lines. Tornadoes in the southern states are often hard to spot because they are embedded in heavy rain. Tornadoes in the south may resemble this one, where low clouds, rain, and trees hinder the spotter. A tornado can split into several smaller tornadoes, then later rejoin into one. Here's the Xenia, Ohio tornado of 1974. This wall cloud over Oshkosh, Wisconsin, produced a multiple vortex tornado that was incredible. These are mammatus clouds. Mammatus are high-level clouds that can be seen on the underside of the anvil. They are not dangerous. Remember the structure of a storm. When a thunderstorm approaches, the first cloud feature that might catch your attention is the shelf cloud. The dark background behind the row of clouds is rain. In fact, it is the rain that cools the air and creates the outrush of wind called the gust front at the leading edge of the storm. Behind the gust front are straight line winds that may gust to more than 50 miles per hour. This rain-cooled air may create another type of cloud along the gust front called a roll cloud. This horizontal cloud is not a tornado. It is unusual for a tornado to come out of the leading edge of the storm. Now we are back near the southwest edge of the storm, looking west, where you would expect to see a tornado. Here's a rain shaft. It's easy to recognize it for what it is. This one's tougher. It's the same rain shaft 10 minutes later. This one could fool you. If you're not sure, watch it over a period of time. The meteorologist who filmed this rain shaft watched it for 15 minutes until it finally disappeared. It is not a tornado. To conclude, here's a life cycle of a tornado as a spotter might see it. First, looking toward the southwest edge of the storm, a wall cloud. 30 minutes later, a damaging tornado is formed out of the wall cloud. 10 minutes after the funnel forms, the tornado has reached its maximum size. Tornado lifetimes last from less than a minute to over an hour. This one stays on the ground for another 15 minutes. Here we see it near the end of its life. It shrinks into the rope stage, yet it is still destructive. Even as we watch it, it levels a farmhouse hidden in the trees 2 miles away. We can't prevent tornado devastation, but with early warnings, we can save lives.
All right. So we watched a film about tornadoes, so that's going to take tornadoes in Raleigh off the table. That's my 16 millimeter voodoo. So I grew up actually, I was like 15 miles away from Xenia, Ohio, and remember the Xenia tornado. I remember the sky was green, and I remember air sirens going off where I grew up. And I remember we didn't have any damage where I was, but Xenia was flattened. I mean, it was completely decimated. So I had nightmares about tornadoes for a long time. And in Raleigh, we've braved a couple of tornadoes. And in 2011, I was at the archive where I was living at the time, and I remember there was supposedly going to be some bad weather, and so whenever that happens, the local news stations, they pull out their radars to where they do, like they zoom in on neighborhoods and streets, and they start saying like, okay, there's a possibility of a tornado here, has it been reported, blah blah blah. So I was not watching the station that had Greg Fishel, the guy whose image I have on a shirt. I was watching another station. I was watching WTVD. And they were kind of going from place to place. And so what was happening on WRAL, I heard later, was that Greg Fishel was going through and like mousing through the different neighborhoods on the radar, and was saying like, all right, this is bad. You need to take shelter in this neighborhood. You need to take shelter in this neighborhood. And they weren't really doing that on the station I was watching, WTVD. And at one point on WRAL, somebody rushes into the studio and says, all right, non-essential people need to go into the storm shelter in the basement. And you see people kind of like, oh. And then the power goes out. So it goes. So anybody that was watching that on WRAL freaked out and like rushed to their bathrooms, rushed to their cellars, rushed to their closets. In the meantime, people watching WTVD, like myself, were just going like, whoa, yeah, it's pretty bad. And at some point, I remember going out onto the porch, the front porch, and kind of, because the wind was picking up a little bit, it's like, that's kind of crazy. And I remember the trees going for a couple of seconds, and then nothing. Well, guess what? That was a tornado. It was a tornado that picked up a storage shed, a block, 2 blocks from the archive, and picked it up and like threw it in the street, knocked down trees, and did some crazy damage to some houses like within a mile of the archive. So here I was in the midst of what was nightmare fodder as a child, watching a tornado from my porch going. So there's my tornado story. All right, let's watch a film on film. This film is interesting because I think it was designed to show to kids who were aspiring to be professional musicians, or were like, yeah, I should pursue this. And this is the film to say, maybe you shouldn't pursue this. Maybe you're not good enough. Which is really interesting, because you have, most educational films are, your dreams, pursue your dreams, go as far as you can. And this one is like, you don't have it. So here's music, career or hobby.
Friends and neighbors sometimes encourage us to consider careers in music, but it's always wise to check their judgment. Ken Anderson knew this. That's why he stopped in the middle of a music lesson to ask me,
Well, Mr. Zabel, I've been thinking about what part music would play in my life. Should I try for it? Should I go after a concert career?
is that what you want?
Well, sure. Music is, it's what I want. Nothing else counts as much as music.
I think I understand, Ken. There are others who feel as you do, too.
Well, then, should I try to become a concert artist?
Well, I really don't think I should answer that question for you, Ken. But perhaps I can help you find the answer for yourself. Let's begin with a less difficult question. Where can you find out more about the various careers in music? There are many, you know.
Are you trying to tell me that I'm not good enough for a concert career?
On the contrary, you play very well, Ken. Few years hard work, very hard work, and you might become a performer of professional caliber. Still, you might be happier in some other field of music. See what I mean? Let's take it from the cantabile. Ken's question about a career in music started me thinking. And instead of listening, I was remembering other students and their answers. Mary Winters wasn't a great artist, but she has set out on a concert career, and she could surprise everybody and hit the top. There have been many like Jimmy Hallquist, who have learned to play well enough for their own pleasure, but they regard themselves, and rightly, as musical amateurs. And there have been many in my classes who have found musical performance just too much. Howard Parnell could never really learn to play an instrument. But he did learn to listen to music, and the enjoyment of music became an important part of his life. Now, Ken was facing the question.
You know, Mrs. Abel, about what part music would play in my life, maybe I'd better have a talk with Mr. Wilkinson.
Your guidance counselor?
Uh-huh.
It's a good idea. He'll be able to tell you more about music as a vocation, and more about yourself, too.
Well, I'll see him after school today, and I'll let you know how it goes.
Ken, along with other students, took a series of musical aptitude tests given by the guidance counselor.
This part of the test is concerned with pitch discrimination. You'll hear a series of 3 notes. You're to write down which of the notes is lowest in pitch. All right, here we go.
Problem number 1. Number 2. Number 3.
Of course, such tests need careful interpretation by someone skilled in testing and guidance. Mr. Wilkinson told Ken that his test clearly indicated musical ability, that he might well consider music as a vocation. Mr. Wilkinson suggested that Ken go to the library to find out more about opportunities and requirements in various careers in music. As he read, Ken began to learn something about himself, about how well suited he was to the career he had in mind. Looking beyond the printed page, he could picture himself. Would he like the long hours of practice to prepare himself for a career? Not just at first, but indefinitely, as long as he continued performing in public. Could he perform for the critics? Could he stand the pressure of having to play for their demanding ears? And if the critics approved, would he then enjoy the endless touring, living in Pullmans and hotels, traveling from city to city between concerts? As he read, Ken learned that most musical careers are difficult and competitive. He learned more when he interviewed professional musicians.
Sure, I studied like anybody else. You got to know music in this business, both popular and classical. And then there's this job and that with small combos, knocking around, one-night stands. Pretty tough, son. I'll make it someday, though. Start my own band, develop a new style. and I'll be in. Maybe.
Big symphonies usually have training orchestras you can get into. Already in music school, I was in one. And I had a union card. That you have to have in most orchestras. Well, whenever there was a vacancy in the symphony, they would send you out to audition. So we would go and audition. Very good, they would say. And then they would hire somebody else. Well, finally, they hired me down here. It isn't a major orchestra, this one. I have to take pupils mornings to help out. But then there are still the big symphonies. I can still go audition.
Well, as you know, I've been dead set on composing for a long time. I have composed, as far as that goes, but will anybody perform my works? Of course, I make a good living, writing special arrangements for popular orchestras and scoring radio shows and TV dramas. But I'm not composing. I'm not doing what I really want to do. Do you understand?
Well, I'm working my way up. Of course, I had to get some engineering background as well as music. Then I signed on in a small town station. After a while, I moved over here as music librarian. Now I'm on the turntables. I make up the list for a couple of shows a week. Music director, that's me. Someday.
Yes, Ken learned about many careers in music, and careers that combine music with other abilities, with mechanical skill, with sales ability. Ken learned much from looking into such vocations. After his reading and investigation, Ken came to see me about another important career that had been very much on his mind.
I wonder if you tell me something about teaching.
You know, I was worried that you wouldn't ask me about that. Yes, music teaching has turned out to be a very satisfying career as far as I'm concerned. Very satisfying. You see, a music teacher has to have a special kind of training. He needs to know how to inspire other people to enjoy music. And when you have some success in inspiring others, you just naturally feel inspired yourself.
I think I understand. Thanks a lot.
Yes, teaching was another career that Ken investigated further in finding how his abilities and interests measured up, finding his own answer to the question, what part shall music play in my life? You know, each of us has some aptitude for music. Whether it's performing, or teaching, or just listening. And each of us can have a richer life by finding in it a definite place for music.
Wow, we get to see what that narrator looks like. His voice shows up in a lot of Cornet films, and there he is. So it's an interesting film, and I was looking to see if there was a parallel film for sports, because that seems like that would also be a one to look at. Sports, career or hobby. Although I'm sure there's a different track for that. This next film answers the question, who, me?
That's me. But to get back to George, you know George, I'm sure. Solid type, 42 years old. Hard worker, pretty shrewd in most things. He's a family man. His wife is a lovely girl. They have 2 great children.
Here he is. Daddy, hi! You must be tired, dear.
Well, dinner's waiting.
You should have called. Come on in, change. I was worried about
Always here now. Come on, let's eat.
tougher than him. You hungry?
In short, our good friend George is a catalog of all the standard virtues. But did you notice that cough of his? Rich, resonant, right from the diaphragm. George has been hacking away like that for years. He's not worried about it, you understand. Not at all. In fact, that's what he's telling his doctor this very moment.
It's only a smoker's cough, Doc.
See what I mean?
Isn't it?
Here. This should give you some relief.
You didn't answer my question.
Smoker's cough? Well, you're a heavy smoker. So, by definition.
That's still not an answer.
What do you want me to say? Have I found anything more serious this time? No, I haven't. The X-ray's negative. As far as I can tell, you're all right. But you're pushing your luck. How many cigarettes do you smoke in a day?
Oh, I don't know. 2 packs, maybe more. Depends.
Why?
Why? Why not? You just admitted it hasn't done me any harm.
Now who's not answering?
Well, I suppose I shouldn't, but I like it. I like it. There was a jingle years ago in school. Tobacco's something, something weed. Dirty weed. Tobacco is a dirty weed. I like it. It satisfies no normal need. I like it. It makes you thin, it makes you lean, it takes the hair right off your beat. It's the worst darn stuff I've ever seen. I like it.
So that's how things are with old George. He's not much on logic. But then who is? Most of us muddle along without logic. Except children. Children are terrifyingly logical.
That's all there is to it.
You're not inhaling.
Well, not every time, of course not.
Bet you can't.
Yes, I can.
I knew it. Let me try.
No.
Please, it's my turn.
Who said? There, how about that?
I think you're mean not letting me.
How long has this been going on?
A couple of times, I guess.
What's that?
I've tried it a couple of times.
You're not old enough to try it at all. The very idea of a 14-year-old boy smoking cigarettes.
Gee, Dad, you and Mom smoke. You smoke all the time.
Don't be flip with me, young man.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean...
It's not a question of what I do or your mother does. You're too young, and that's final.
Yes, sir. Dad,
Yes?
how old were you?
Why, I was... I don't remember exactly. But I'm sure I was a lot older than 14. And another thing. Don't let me catch you giving cigarettes to your sister. You hear?
He didn't. It's all my fault.
All right, all right. Go do your homework or something.
How old were you?
About 14.
So what's with the heavy father bit? The kid's only doing
I
what-
know. But he doesn't have to start so soon.
Tobacco is a dirty weed, isn't it? Say, did you ever hear the other version? My children are a rowdy pair. Never heard that? My children are a rowdy pair. I love them. Always getting in my hair. I love them. Much too silly, much too loud. When they're around, two's a crowd. But still and all, they do me proud. I love them.
You stick that knife in pretty deep.
As far as it'll go.
Too far, I think. Sure, I don't want him to smoke. Not yet. But strictly between you and me, what's there to worry about? After all, I just got a clean bill of health.
That does it. That really does it. Doctor, bring on the mountain.
One mountain coming up.
What is this?
We'll be right over. Come on.
Where are we going?
To see a mountain. Your mountain, buddy.
I don't own a mountain.
You've been building one for 28 years. Is that it? One load to go. I'll get it. You explain this.
Well, as he said, it's all yours. Your total consumption of cigarettes so far, George, 500,000.
You're kidding.
I wish I were.
And here's the 18,000 you'll knock off this year alone.
By golly, it's kind of impressive. Reminds me of the pyramids.
You're so right. Welcome to the Royal Tube.
Well, it all goes up in smoke anyway.
Not up, George. In. You draw it into your lungs, and some of it stays there. You've heard of tobacco tar, the viscous stuff that condenses out of smoke? Well, over the years, you've smeared your lungs with 22 pounds of tar. Go on, touch it. Smell it. Care to taste it?
No thanks.
There are about 500 different chemical compounds in this mess, and at least 7 of them are known carcinogens.
They're what?
They cause cancer. That's one fact. But I've got 1 million of them. The research on this thing has been tremendous. You just can't blink it away. At least the Surgeon General and his men couldn't. 400 pages to support one conclusion. Health hazard. Cigarettes, they said, are a health hazard. Look, where's that big chart?
Right here.
Have you any idea how much cigarette smoking has increased in our lifetime?
Well, the population has increased.
No, I mean the rate per person. This represents the cigarettes smoked by the average adult in 1930. 30 years later, nearly 3 times as many. During the same period, the death rate from lung cancer multiplied by 10.
Now, wait a minute. You haven't shown a connection here. I'm a fact, too, and I don't...
Boy, you are stubborn.
No, he's got a point. It could be happenstance, but not my next fact. Now, we select 3 men out of the general population. The one doesn't smoke at all. The second is a light smoker, less than half a pack a day. And the third is like you, 2 packs or more. Now, George, if you were a betting man, who would you say is most likely to die of lung cancer?
Me, I guess. I mean him, the heavy smoker.
By what odds? Against the non-smoker, that is. 2 to 1, 3 to 1, 10 to 1?
I'll take 3 to 1.
You're way off, George. Even for the light smoker, the death rate is 7 times greater than it is for the non-smoker. And it's nearly 30 times greater for the 2-pack man. The odds are almost 30 to 1. 30 to 1. Sounds hard to believe, I suppose. But not if you remember the 22 pounds of tar that you've been collecting in your lungs. You know, at postmortems, they can estimate with considerable accuracy how much smoking a man has done just by examining his lungs. This is a normal, healthy lung. Here's what it looks like after 20 or 30 years of heavy smoking. Yes, that's what people do to themselves. And here's what's been happening too often. Cancer. But it isn't always cancer, of course. Might be chronic bronchitis, or coronary heart disease, or this. He's a patient of mine. He spends all day in bed trying to catch his breath.
What's wrong with him?
It's called emphysema. The lungs are damaged and swell out of shape. It's hard to breathe. Commonly found among heavy smokers. First symptoms are a shortness of breath and a cough that hangs on. You know, up to now, you've been lucky, George. Very lucky indeed. I hope your son is lucky, too.
My son? I won't let him smoke.
How are you going to do that? Lay down the law? Lock him in the tower? 20 lashes?
I'll talk to him.
It better be good. Out in Oregon, smoking and parents smoking
Please.
and...
No more facts.
Well, what it amounted to was like father, like son. Or for that matter, like mother, like daughter. In other words, if you became a shining example...
Who, me? Stop smoking? Don't you think I've tried? So many times.
Try again. Every bit you cut down helps.
Food will taste better and you'll sleep better. You'll look younger and feel younger, no question about it.
If you stop, there's a very good chance your son won't start.
Hey, turn that thing off. Now, that's more like it. My children are a rowdy pair. I love them. Always getting in my hair. I love them. Much too silly, much too loud. When they're around, choose a crowd. I've got to try to do them proud. Because I love them.
I smoked for 25, close to 30 years. I decided that I should stop, but I didn't really have the final push to get me to stop. One day, and I'd been facing this realization for some time, wondering what I was going to do about it. One day in my office, one of my partners, and I work in a group in Seattle, one of my partners brought me a film on another partner, a chest x-ray, and it was quite evident that he had lung cancer. And he was a heavy smoker, and had been for many, many years. He died within the next 6 months. That same week, one of my partners brought me another chest x-ray on another partner. He also had a cancer in his lung. When I saw, and he was a heavy smoker, when I saw that, I knew I had to stop, and I put out my cigarette then, and I haven't smoked since.
I'd been experiencing numbness in my feet and ankles for some time, so I consulted a physician, and after examining me, he determined it was a circulation problem. He asked me if I smoked and how much, and after answering these questions, he simply laid the law down, there shall be no more smoking. So I gave it up.
I'm delighted that I stopped, because it had been a continual mental depression to me to be doing something that I really didn't want to do.
Well, I started in high school. I started because everybody else was, and it made me feel terribly grown up.
I can remember well when I started smoking. I was 16, and the reason I did was because my father and mother smoked and my 2 older brothers smoked.
My children are now 7 and 10, and I don't want them to smoke. And I tell them this, and if I did smoke, they conclude either that smoking wasn't as bad as I said it was, or that I couldn't push this monkey off my back.
Things have changed so much in the last 25 years that when I was 16, we didn't know that cigarette smoking was a threat to one's health.
Like most heavy smokers, I knew in my heart I should try and give up smoking. But I really didn't want to. And it wasn't until my visit to the doctor.
Sure, I had trouble giving it up. I can remember, I have a vivid picture in my mind of sitting at the dining room table one night with my wife and writing checks, and she thought I was going into shock. It was that bad.
When we hear about how terribly hard it wasn't so hard. I didn't have to, eat 2 pounds of chocolate suddenly, or bite my fingernails, or do anything.
I must have tried 20 times, and the 20th one attempt was successful. And at the office, I put the candy bars and macaroons in my desk and sneak them out and chew them and so on when no one was looking.
Well, I found that chewing gum, believe it or not, was a great help. You sort of have to have something to do with your hands. At least I found this to be true. And I can't say that chewing gum did anything with my hands, but it satisfied that craving for something.
And yet I think that when one has sufficient reason for stopping, and I've got all kinds of scientific reasons, but 3 real good reasons in my 3 kids, if one has sufficient reason to stop, one can do it.
I found that I could do it. It wasn't easy, but I do feel better, and I'm very proud of myself, and so is my family.
Found it was not as hard if you put your mind to it, really.
I would like to be a moderate smoker if I could be, but I find that I can't.
Then you feel you've got to do it. You want to do it and you're going to have to do it. I think you can.
We think that the only way that we can turn this tremendous incentive to smoke and turn it in the other direction is to work through the young people. I just wish more fathers would have a chance of seeing it the way I did on that one particular occasion when it suddenly came home to me that smoking was no good for me or for my kids or for the rest of the people with whom I come in contact.
Here's my birthday present to you, a new tie.
Oh, thanks.
Here's my birthday present, Charles.
A new tie?
How did y'all know?
And here's a present from all of us, Charlie, a new television set, so you can watch the new adventures of the New Zoo Review.
Oh, a new set? Ooh, watching the New Zoo Review. Now, that's what I call having a great time.
You don't have to wait until your birthday to have a great time. You can watch the New Zoo Review every day, Monday through Friday, on this channel. Come on, let's watch.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't just end with a film about lung cancer. It's a great film, a great anti-smoking film, and I have several, but this one came out right on the heels of the Surgeon General's report, which came out in '64, and this one was made in '64, '65, so pretty amazing. And, there were still massive ads for cigarettes during this time, so it was a big deal. And I think that the argument that if you stopped, your kids it would not be as likely that they would start is a big deal. I mean, I think if you have smoking in your house, you're very likely to smoke at some point. I didn't smoke. My parents didn't smoke. My grandparents did, and I lost both my grandmothers to smoking. So I never felt the need to smoke. Coffee, on the other hand, I love me some coffee. My parents didn't drink coffee. My grandparents did, and skipped a generation. And I have to say, I'm part of the new coffee generation as advertised in the 80s. And I'm a big fan, and you can help support that miserable habit, which turns my tongue black and percolates my nervous system. You can also hit like and subscribe. Those are great ways to say thank you for doing what you're doing. We should be getting some rough weather in about an hour, So I'm going to go run some errands. Hopefully it won't take down a big tree that's outside of our house. That's what I'm, fingers are crossed, because that will probably take out power and internet and just be a big pain in the butt. Everybody have a good rest of your day. I hope that you're not in the area that is getting severe weather. And if you are, please take care of yourself. And check out for your neighbors. As always, we look to the film can to help us kind of figure out what's going on. And it asks us to please rewind and love each other. And a little smiley face with girly eyelashes. I should be back tomorrow. If not, I'll probably post something somewhere that says that I am unable to be here tomorrow. But I don't anticipate. I'm thinking positive thoughts. So everybody have a good rest of your day. And I hope to see you tomorrow. All right, everybody take care.